Good evening, everybody. It's very late. It's actually past, almost 9:30. It's been one crazy day, but I have to live up to my own goals that I will post a video every Monday. I have had no chance to do one today, but I will. This windowsill, I actually on Saturday got a chance to do something pretty. I was determined to get plants in the house, and this is the tidiest, prettiest corner of my entire house, so I love it. But I was very pleased with finding those 2 house plants at £2 each, and the same for the pots and the other stuff I already had. And the sign a friend gave me: if your dreams don't scare you, they aren't big enough. And I thought, yes, sometimes my dreams, my ambitions do scare me, but yeah, great saying that. And I love that windowsill. It's about the tidiest and nicest part of the house. And then this saying here, that some people look for a beautiful place, others make a place beautiful, reminding me that it is perspective and attitude that counts. Okay, you can see it's already getting dark. We've passed that summer solstice and here we are. Okay, the light is fading much quicker now, because just last week at this time of night it was still very sunny. But the light is fading at night now. The days are getting shorter again, but still light enough to do stuff even at this time of night. I have obviously been potting on a load of seeds, lots more ready to go out. The beans have all been put in their tubes. The kale is growing nicely. The Jerusalem artichokes are now climbing up, and this will probably only just be half its height, because the Jerusalem artichokes tend to get right up to the bathroom window on the upper floor. But I don't know about this year, because this year I have put them in pots. Not that you can see much there. I've put them in pots because I didn't want them spreading, as they have spread from when they were in the ground right the way through the edge of the paving slabs, and I'm continually pulling up the plants. So I've put them in pots this year. The Achillea, the yarrow, cloth of gold, out in the front garden is already in full bloom, bright yellow. So the front garden is way more exposed and gets more sunlight than the back for the biggest part of the day. And so we have another flush of yellow coming soon in the back garden. It's a beautiful smell, very strong though, can be quite overpowering. The few that survived and flowering nicely, I shall have to pick and dry some of those ready for use. Chamomile I've planted out. The corn is finally springing up into life, and first thing in the morning the sparrows absolutely love being all over the corn. I don't know what they're doing, but they're actually standing on the leaves. Could you believe it? The leaves can take the weight of the birds. And then they're dipping into the elbows of the leaves looking for insects and things, and scurrying around on the ground. So that's all very interesting, watching them in the morning. I love watching them. They're fascinating. And we've had a specific sparrow family where the little fledglings have been following and learning from the parents as they go, and they're all ready now to be let free from the parents, because the parents have stopped feeding them, even though the fledglings still ask them for food, and they're kind of telling them, nope, you gotta move on now. I might have to get to that point myself. But the onions, I've had to snap over some. They're a couple have bolted and gone to flower, but most are okay. But I think this, as you could tell, some of the leaves are yellowing and drying out from the weather, but they have, formed nice bulbs. Most of them have formed nice bulbs, so I might have to snap all of them and just start getting them ready to pull up and dry, and then that'll make space for the new plants ready to go out, because I've got quite a few things ready to go out and nowhere to put them. Some of the beetroot is bolted as well, but I'll leave that for seed. I grow my own seed. The patty pans are flowering, and we even have some patty pans growing there, and on that one under here, look at that lovely little fruit going there. This gooseberry, the caterpillars have completely stripped the leaves, but it hasn't affected the fruit. They're lovely. Some of them are, these ones I have harvested some already, but these ones I've left to ripen more. The marshmallow plants are surviving the dry heat, and there was the very warm winds we've had. It's windy now, but it's very warm. The blackberries looking absolutely beautiful. I should be picking them because there's some on the floor already. Blueberries I've been harvesting, and this is the first time ever that I've actually had more blueberries than just a handful, because when they were there by the house, the birds would strip it. And it's amazing because the birds are here all the time, and yet they're not eating the blueberries, which is amazing. So they like this spot, the blueberries, and the birds don't seem to eat it. And it's weird, but there you go. The tomatoes in the can, flowering. Oh, this seems a little bit out of focus. The nasturtiums there, and the strawberries have survived. Everything here is surviving. There's even new shoots on that apple. Can you believe it? New shoots. July, because it's now the 2nd of July already. My asparagus, the feathery plant there, I've let go to flower so that it can feed the roots for the winter. My duck potatoes I've taken out of the pond because my last 2 swan mussels have died in all the heat that we've had, and because I didn't have anything moving the water, the algae had taken away almost all the oxygen out of the water. The mosquitoes had laid loads of eggs, and there were larvae all over it, and when I checked the other day just to check on the mussels, they were dead. There was still flesh in it and mosquito larvae full in the shells. So whether it's the larvae that killed them or the amount of algae that had taken all the oxygen out of the water, I don't know. So I started emptying the pond, and it's just as well because we will be moving it, and this week beginning to dig there, right where that duck is. Oof, mind the towel. And so lots going on. I've got washing on the line I'm leaving on overnight, and look at this monstrosity, right? Yes, my son came home one day last week with this pool, decided he was putting it up in the garden because of the hot weather. My sweet potato is doing well, but he decided he's going to put this up in the hot weather, and I could understand that. I really could. But all sorts of thoughts were going through my head. This is not exactly eco-friendly. It is not zero waste. All sorts of thoughts were going through my head, and not to mention the amount of water to fill it. It takes 2,000 liters of water. And I just thought, and then I thought, no. I remembered a saying and a reminder from Thomas S. Monson, who reminded us that we were not to let a problem to be solved become more important than a person to be loved. With that, I chilled and set out finding the silver lining to this particular cloud. And water in this temperature being, something of an importance. Look at this lawn. It has been so dry and so hot that the lawn is dead. Right. Dead completely. I've never had that happen. Not in the UK anyway. But yep, the lawn is dead because of it, and it's on a slope, so the pool wants to move, so we've propped it up with heavy pot plants to try and stop the water wanting to go the way of gravity and follow the slope. But we've managed so far. He's bought a cover, we haven't put it on tonight, and that sheet over there is draped over the wash line during the hottest part of the day to make a lovely canopy. makeshift, make do and mend shift as well, but it worked fine. It's been really lovely. The baby's high chair is still out there. This has become a family garden, which is exactly what I wanted. So why did I feel so bad? It's exactly what I wanted. A space my family wanted to be and feel good and happy, and to see them in that little paddling, well, it's not a little paddling pool, it's a rather big one at 8 foot wide diameter. So it made me happy to see them have fun and to chill and enjoy being in the garden. So I relaxed about that and then thought, okay, let's see about the good side of this. If they do impose hosepipe bans and water restrictions on us, at least I have a water storage for the garden. And the dirty water I put in the water butts and replaced it with clean water, and was watering the garden. And then because the water was changing colour and we don't have a filter, my son went and got the water cleaning kit for pools, which includes chlorine, and bang goes my hope for a water storage for emergencies for the garden, because I do not think that I could use that to water the garden. There you go. And today my son helped me put up this trellis of wire that he had from a friend who was getting rid of stuff out of his garden. So instead of taking it to the skip, I said I would have it because I couldn't afford trellis for the pergola. And we've put it up, and the honeysuckle I had is already, when I tied it in, covered most of this section of the trellis, and so has the grapevine on that end. You can't see it very well in this light. I shall have a better look another day. But and see, even the clothes horses put out, making use of this weather to dry washing. The light is fading very quickly, so I won't be able to say much more. But the most important thing that I wanted to talk about, especially with view of this pool becoming an issue and this very, very hot, dry weather, even the wind is warm and drying. The front garden being the most exposed garden that we have, I made a point once in a week to completely drench the ground, and I doubled up the mulch around everything to keep the water in the soil, and that's been working a treat. The soil is still moist and cool under the mulch. However, at the hottest part of the day, from 12 o'clock right the way through till 9 o'clock at night, even the tops of the plants are wilting, because it's not just the soil that needs to be kept cool, it's the air around the plants too. It's the water that's in the plant seems to be cooking, so the plants are wilting even though they've got plenty of water, because it's not just the soil underneath that needs to stay cool, but the air around the plants too. So I'm hoping that as I grow more trees, short, smaller shrub trees, I'll cloud prune the shrubs to be like small trees and cast some more shade over the garden. Hopefully that will help to shelter the front garden in future years. I have got a hawthorn and wisteria, I've got Elaeagnus, I've got some aronia berries and honeyberries and under the bushes growing there, and hopefully over time as I add more, I've got a little acer now as well. So as I add, and a lilac, so as I add a few more shorter trees and keep them short, just about as high as I can reach to prune and no higher, then hopefully that will help to create more shade and shelter for the garden. In the back it's not been as bad, even though I am now facing south in that direction. This part of the house gets quite a lot of sun, but in the afternoon the sun comes over going in that direction from the west, and it is here for quite a long time of the day and very hot. So that front garden needs a lot more shelter. I mean, we've got the fences, the shed, the house and everything to give us shelter in the back, but the front is facing a little green where there's nothing, and it goes down into a little dip of a valley kind of thing, so it's very exposed. And now as far as water goes, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 water butts in the back garden, and I can tell you that is not enough. We need the entire side of that shed, the entire side of this pergola, and probably another entire side of that pergola to have enough water for this back garden if we had no water for a couple of weeks, and if we were limited and not able to use the tap water. We have no water storage in the front garden, so we have to carry everything through to the back. And when I water with watering cans, it takes up to 12 watering cans just to do a basic proper water around the roots of the individual plants that need it most. To do a drenching would take 15 to 16 watering cans. That's quite a lot of water, even with all the mulching, because there's not enough shelter and shade in the front. So water, even for us here in the UK, in a hot summer like we've had this year, and in our front garden, I checked today, yet again, it reached 36 degrees. Yesterday, like one day last week, was 38 degrees centigrade. So we had very hot weather, and as I drove just down to the bottom of our road by the traffic island where there are trees, it dropped down to 30 degrees. So there's a big 6-degree difference between my unsheltered and exposed front garden and the traffic island at the bottom of our road covered in big trees. 6 degrees that difference makes. So it does get very hot for us here, especially in our exposed front garden, and the back gets cold too. I mean, we had 25 centimeters of snow in this back garden, and beginning of the year when we had that bit of snow so late. So we do get a bit of extremes where we are, but it could be a lot worse. So when we do have all that rain coming earlier in the year, it's forward planning for what might happen later in the year with the summer to store a lot of that water. Even though our garden gets completely bogged, being quite heavy clay, it doesn't hold enough to last long enough for the whole season, and we have to store it. And we have to grow plants that are resilient to dry weather. The corn love it, the onions are surviving, but the brassicas are struggling. They tend to prefer it a bit shady. So permaculture is about observe. And as we observe our little spaces wherever we are, because my garden has got a different climate to the garden at the bottom of my road, obviously. So observe your space, check what happens, learn from it, plan from it. If I wanted to plant, I have actually got some pomegranates there as well. I've got Arctic kiwis, I've got grenadilla, passion fruit. So they like the warmer weather, but they don't like the wind. So if I put them in a space where they'll be sheltered from wind, yet still be protected from cold and be able to be warm, then they have a better chance of survival. And that's what it is. Where in your garden is the driest? Where is the wettest? Where is the coldest? Where is the shadiest? Plan for it. So where water is concerned, store, mulch, and shade for the summer, and for the windy days too. And that's all I can say on that. I'm sure I could talk a great deal more about water and water storage and conservation in the garden, but right now, as it's getting really dark and I want to go to bed, I want to drop into my bed and sleep. You will probably only see this video tomorrow. I'll upload this quick before I go to bed so that it's up and ready by the morning. And I technically did post it then on Monday as I promised, although I really was a bit late today. So however hot it is where you are, or cold, and some of my family are in countries where it's winter right now, whatever your weather, enjoy it. Let it help you appreciate the season to come. And for next year, plan. Things that are important cannot be repeated enough. Good night all, and good morning to you in the morning. Bye-bye.